Hi everyone, thanks for joining this NBS Chorus Revisions Masterclass webinar. Before we get underway, a little bit of housekeeping for today's session. The webinar will last a maximum of 45 minutes. During the session, your microphones will be muted. You can use the questions box on the GoToWebinar control panel to ask questions. We'll follow up by email after the session. Also, this session is being recorded. We'll make this available to watch again later via the NBS website. For those of you who don't already know me, my name is Martin Marks and I am one of the trainers at NBS. I'll be taking you through the webinar today. The agenda for today is: I'll firstly explain what the revisions functionality is within Chorus and who can use it. I'll then introduce you briefly to the elements within Chorus which support and facilitate the revisions functionality. Then I'll switch into Chorus and show the revisions process. I'll start by publishing my baseline spec, recording the publication details, and saving a copy to the publication history. I'll then make some representative changes within my specification. I'll then republish my specification, comparing to my earlier baseline specification. Lastly, I'll show the revision process where specifications are issued in packages rather than as a whole. So what is the revisions functionality and who can use it? The revisions functionality is actually a number of separate features which work together in a publishing process. This allows you to keep track of changes that you make within your specification over the project lifecycle. Essentially, it does this by allowing you to save a copy of any specification and that you publish from Chorus. We generally recommend saving a copy of the specification and to the publish history for any versions you will be issuing formally or externally. However, there may be other instances where you wish to record the current state of the specification, even though you may not be formally issuing the specification. For example, once you've imported a specification from Building, Landscape or Create, you should publish and save this to your publication history as a baseline prior to making any changes, or perhaps at the end of a work stage or other project milestone, even though you might not be issuing a specification at that point. Having saved your specification to the publish history, you will be able to compare any future changes in your specification back to this version and see which clauses have changed. The revisions feature is available for all customers with a Chorus 2 and above subscription. To check which version of Chorus you have, you can click on your initials or gravatar image in the top right-hand corner of the Chorus window, then hover over Application Status. Your Chorus subscription level will be listed under License. If you would like to discuss upgrading your Chorus 1 subscription to enable this feature, then please contact your account manager. The revisions feature can be used on all content sets, cores, uniclass, CMS and NMS, and all of the libraries therein. It's also supported for publishing the specification with the default NBS style sheet and any custom style sheets your organization may have added. So I'll quickly overview some elements which facilitate the revisions functionality. You have the ability when publishing your specification to include revision or publication information, such as title, number, status, and revision. These are included on the cover page of the default NBS published output and can be placed anywhere within a custom style sheet output. You can also include internal notes about the version you're publishing. Incidentally, we have a support article which you can access from within Chorus that discusses entering publication details when working to the ISO 19650 series of standards. So it's worth having a look at that, and indeed the other revision support articles if you haven't done so already. There is also the toggle switch at the top, which lets you decide whether or not you wish to save this version to the publish history. Then there's the publish history list. As you can see, this shows all of the information you entered when publishing your specifications. You can also manage the publish history records and republish the previous versions saved here. When you publish your specification, you're presented with a list of all of the previously saved versions. You can decide whether to compare to an earlier version, and if so, which one. This list can also be filtered and sorted. I'm sure you'll appreciate, therefore, that consistency and completeness with the details you enter would be greatly beneficial to yourself and your colleagues. And then we have the revision markers, which are included in the published specification. We'll see more of these shortly, but basically they indicate which systems, sections, and clauses have now changed in comparison to the earlier version. So I'll switch over now into Chorus in my browser. So now I'm in Chorus, I'll just click into my 12 Meadowdale Road project. And I can see my project specification, which is the works specification. So first thing I'm going to do is publish this specification in full, and I'll show you recording revision information. This will also be saved back to my publish history and will serve as a baseline prior to making changes within my spec. I'll just publish this in the normal manner. Click on the menu button and select Publish Specification. At the top, you can see the various steps in the publishing process. You can navigate through these steps by clicking on a particular step at the top of the screen, or by using the next and back buttons at the bottom of the screen. In the first step, you can choose to publish to PDF or Word, and as this is a uniclass specification, I can also choose between single systems and group systems by code options. I'll stick with the default PDF and single systems and just click Next. Now, in the compare step, you can see that I've already saved some previous versions to the publish history. Most of these relate to construction issue specs for specific packages, but the one at the bottom was a full spec issued as a draft for internal review. And you can see that I've used a combination of the number, title, status, revision, and notes, so that I know exactly what each of these records relate to. Now, I'm not going to select any of these to compare back to at this stage. I'll show that shortly. So I'll just click on Next. Okay, so now at the publication details step. Firstly, at the top, we have the Save Publish History switch. By default, this is on, and as such will save what I'm publishing to the Publish History. Now, I do want to save that, so I'll leave it on. The publication title field defaults to the specification name. As I'm publishing my full spec, I'm not going to change that, but I could amend it if needs be. For example, to append a package description if I was just publishing part of my spec. Next, publication number. I'm going to complete this as RF12345/1 in accordance with my internal referencing procedures. Project status. So I previously issued this spec in packages for construction. So this will also have a for construction status. Now, project revision. This is going to be C001 and again in accordance with my internal referencing procedures. So these fields will be included on the cover page using the default NBS style sheet and can be included in a custom style sheet as well. The publication notes section is not published with the spec, but it's useful to record key information about the publication. I'm just going to enter full spec for my publication notes. Then at the bottom is the file name. You can change this if you wish or need to, but I'll just click next. Then we have the styling step. From here, you can choose to publish with the default NBS style sheet or any custom style sheet that your organization has uploaded and activated. I'm going to leave this as the default NBS style sheet and just click Publish Now. We covered custom style sheets in an earlier webinar in November. You can watch that on demand either from the support articles or the events section of thenbs.com. Okay, now that has downloaded, I'll just open it up. And you can see on the cover page all of the revision information I entered, together with the project number in the square at the top, the project name 12 Meadowdale Road, the project description you can also see at the bottom, and some other project and organisation information. I'm not going to go through the whole spec, but I will just scroll down to the contents list. You'll recall that I didn't select a previous version to compare with, and therefore we don't see any revision markers. Okay, I'll just switch back to my Chorus tab and click into the Works specification. At the top of the contents list, you can see the Publish History tab. I'll click into that. At the top of the list, you can see the version I have just published and the previously published ones below. I can re-download this version by clicking on the PDF sheet icon. I can also click on the menu button and download again in PDF or Word formats. If I had saved this to the Publish History in error, I can also delete it from here, and I can also edit the details I recorded at the time. Maybe if it was just to update the internal publication notes or to reflect a change I have made to the file name, I would edit it from here. But for other changes, I'd be tempted to remove from here and just republish so that the document and the publish history match. I'll just cancel out of here. But that is my baseline full spec recorded. Now, I'm going to make some representative changes in my specification. My client has decided to include underfloor electric heating and floor tiling to bathroom areas. They also wish to change the door handles from satin to polished stainless steel, remove the cast stone sills that I specified, add a vehicle charging point to the electric system, and to remove the CCTV provision from the specification. So I'll get on and make those changes. First, I'll jump back to my specifications list using the breadcrumbs at the top of the screen here. Now, for the underfloor heating and tiling, I've already prepared specifications for these, and I have these in my possible variations specification. So I'll click into that and then copy these over to my works specification. I can do this by ticking the relevant systems and then copy over using the Actions button. Alternatively, I could use keyboard shortcuts. I'll use the Actions button and then copy them to my project. And click Next. And I'm going to copy them into my works specification. Now that's copied over, I'll navigate into my works specification, then into the contents list. Now, before I permanently delete the CCTV system, because I have fully specified this out, I don't want to lose that work. I'm going to firstly copy this system to a separate holding spec in my project. Then when I have more time on my hands, I'll transfer it into my masters. So I'll copy this over as before. Into my omitted systems specification. Now that's copied over, I'll navigate into the editor screen or the search screen so I can access my contents list at the left-hand side of the screen. So for the, well, first of all, let me just delete my CCTV system from this specification. I'll now navigate into my hardwired low voltage small power system. And scroll down to row 11, just edit that clause. And I'm going to add the electric vehicle charging points clause. So now I've added that, I'll save the clause and scroll down to see it. So I'll just edit this new clause. And I'm going to include a pod point solo from the products panel. and just click on Save to save that. Now for the door handles, I'll search for my door hardware system. And I'll just scroll down to the door lever handle sets and edit that clause. And I'll just change this satin finish to a polished finish. And then I'll save that clause. Finally, removing the cast stone sills. I'll search for my masonry wall leaf system. Click into the clause to edit it. And I'm going to remove my cast stone sills and park this row, then save the clause. Okay, so that's my changes done. Just to recap, I've added 2 brand new systems to my work specification, floor tiling and electric underfloor heating. Removed the whole CCTV system. Edited the hardwired low voltage small power system and added in a linked product clause. Deleted a linked clause from the external wall and just edited a linked clause for the lever handles. I'll just jump back to my specification list with the breadcrumbs at the top here and publish my specification again from the menu button. I'm going to publish to PDF as before and just click next. Now I can see the full specification that I want to compare back to at the top of this list. But you can also filter and sort this list by typing into the search field and clicking on the column headings. But I'm just going to mark the first one here and click next. When you've selected an earlier publication to compare revisions against, the publication details automatically populate with the previous values. I'm just going to increment the publication number and revision. And I'm going to enter full spec with revision markers in this publication notes field. I'm going to leave the Save Publish History turned on so I can save a copy of this publication with the revision markers showing. Now, once I've published this specification, I might want to go back and publish it again, but without the revision markers shown. So I have a clean, in inverted commas, version saved as well. In the future, however, I would be able to compare back to a saved version, whether or not that version included the revision markers. I'll just click on Next and Publish Now. And just open that once it downloads. So, cover page as before, but I'll scroll down to the contents list. I'll just zoom that down a little so that we can see the full contents list. So you can see from the grey unchanged markers that the majority of my specification hasn't changed since the earlier version I'm comparing with. But we'll focus on the orange, green and red revision markers. You can see that the masonry wall leaf system, the door hardware system and the hardwired low voltage small power system have all been revised. Let's take a more detailed look at each of these, starting with the masonry wall leaf system. I can jump straight to that section just by clicking on the clause title, and that is a hyperlink to that section within the specification. So you can see that the system has been revised from the orange revised markers at the top of the page. If I scroll down slowly, we can see the majority of the linked clauses don't show any revision markers, meaning they haven't changed. However, when I get to the end of the system, you can see that the cast stone sills clause has been deleted from the system. Clauses deleted from a system or section will simply be listed at the end of that system or section and clearly marked as deleted. I'll jump back to the contents page and we'll have a look next at the door hardware systems. So you can see again that the system has been revised from the orange markers at the top. You can also see that the product clause for the door lever handles has been revised, again from the orange revised marker on that clause. And again, scrolling down through this system, you can see nothing else has changed within it. I'll jump back to the contents page once more. And now let's look at the hardwired low voltage small power system. Again, you can see that the system has been revised from the orange markers at the start of the system. And if I scroll down, you can see that the electric vehicle charging point has been added since the version of the specification I'm comparing with. I'll jump back to the contents page again, however. Now we'll have a look at the new systems I added for the floor tiling and underfloor heating. I'll click on the internal floor tiling system clause. And you can see from the added markers at the top that this is an entirely new system. And all of the linked clauses are also marked as being added. The same would be true if I reviewed the underfloor heating system as well. Finally, I'll jump back to the contents page once more. And you can see at the bottom here, the CCTV system is shown here as deleted. If I click on that to jump to that section, systems or sections which have been deleted from the specification will simply be listed at the end of the specification and again clearly marked as deleted. Okay, so that's how the revision markers appear in a published spec when comparing to an earlier version. They would also appear in the same way in a custom style sheet, and I'll quickly show that. So I'll just switch back to my Chorus tab and publish my specification once more. So I'm not going to save this back to my publish history. And I'm going to choose my custom style sheet and publish now. I'll just open that and I'll just jump to the contents page. So you can see the same revision markers as per the default NBS style sheet. And if I jump to the door hardware systems, again, we can see the same revision markers as before. It would also be the same for the added and deleted systems. However, let me switch back to my project in Chorus. So the last thing I'm going to cover today is publishing in packages. Now, I know many of you who are on the webinar today will publish your specification in packages rather than as a whole specification. So you'll probably already be familiar with the workflow I'm about to show. But I'll run through it for those of you who may not be aware. So I'll just click into my works specification. You can see from the contents list that I've included my work package codes as a prefix. Now, I could have inserted these as a suffix instead if I had wanted to, and it would work essentially in the same way. And if I were to scroll down, you can see that I've used codes beginning with JNR for joinery, ELC for electrical, MAC for mechanical, GWK for groundwork, and so on and so forth. Now, if I switch to my Publish History tab, you can see from my Notes column that I have previously published and saved a version of all of my work packages. Now, I can publish the revised ones and show changes and revisions from these earlier versions. I'll just quickly switch back to the tab in my browser where my full spec with the revision markers is still open, and just jump back to the contents page. And I can see that I need to reissue my masonry package, my joinery package, my tiling package, and my electrical package. I'll just jump back to my Chorus tab and back to my contents list. So I could scroll down and put a tick in all of the systems I want to include for my first package spec that I'm going to republish. But there is a quicker way to select them all. So if I type JNR in the search field here, it shows my joinery systems. And if I type in GWK, my groundwork systems, or MAS, my masonry systems. But you'll notice the letters MAS are included in the masonry plugs clause, which is a product clause, but is nonetheless displayed. I could change my show drop-down to display only systems. Because, however, my package code has 3 letters, then a hyphen, I could just add the hyphen in the search field as well. And this would practically guarantee me that I'm only going to see results or matches in the prefix field. However, I'm actually going to republish my electrical package for this example. So I'll enter ELC hyphen, and now I'm only seeing my electrical systems. But you'd probably want to cast your eyes down the filtered results just to ensure there's nothing unintentional included. Now, I could put a tick in each of these checkboxes separately. However, I can just tick the checkbox on the header row here, and that will then tick all of the clauses beneath. So now you can see the action button has a badge on it saying I have 6 clauses selected. And from the actions button, I can choose the publish selection option. And this will only publish those 6 selected systems. So I'll publish to PDF as single systems. Just click on next. So now I need to select the correct previous version to compare back to. I could scroll through this list of previous publications to find the correct one, but over time, this list could potentially grow quite large. Now, you'll notice that I have included my work package code prefix as part of the revision number and within the notes. So I can use the filter at the top here and just enter ELC. And as you can see, I only have one previous electrical package that I published. But if I had quite a few, I could click on, say, the revision column heading or the published column heading to sort the list so I can find the one I want. I'll just check this radio button and click next. As before, my revision details pre-populate from the previous version. I'll just increment the publication number and revision and click next and publish now. Now that's downloaded, I'll just open it and jump to the contents page. And here I can see similar revision markers as before. We can see that underfloor electric heating has been added. Hardwired low voltage small power systems has been revised, and the CCTV systems has been deleted. And the other electrical systems remain unchanged. If I jump to the low voltage small power system, you can see the revision markers again at the top, indicating the system has been revised. And if I scroll down, we can see that the electric vehicle charging points clause has been added. One final thing I'm going to show you before we bring the session to a close is what happens if you select the wrong systems when you publish and compare in work packages. I'll switch back to my Chorus tab. I'm going to untick the electrical systems checkboxes and clear this filter. So now I'm just going to scroll down and click the checkbox for the various joinery packages. And I'm actually going to deliberately miss this one out and deliberately tick this one instead. And I'll just scroll down and just tick the remaining joinery packages. Okay. So that should get me all of the joinery packages selected, except one which I have deliberately missed out, and one which I have deliberately ticked in error here. So I'll just publish my spec as before. And I'm going to compare back to my previous joinery specification. I'm not going to save this to my publication history. Just click on next and publish now. Okay. So let's get that opened up and just jump down to the contents list. So I can see all of my changed, unchanged, added, deleted packages here. However, I can see that this groundwork package is shown as being added. So I can see straight away that this system shouldn't be included in my joinery work package. So it's an error on my part when I was selecting the systems. Also, the timber roof framing system is shown as deleted. I know I haven't deleted this system, so again, it's flagged up as an error on my part when I was selecting those systems to publish. So that's all I wish to cover in this masterclass session. I'll just jump back to my PowerPoint. That brings us to the end of the webinar for today. I hope you found it useful. We'll also follow up by email to all of your questions as soon as we can. Before we end the session, however, some next steps. As I mentioned at the start, this webinar is being recorded, so you can watch this and all of our other masterclasses and webinars again at the nbs.com/events. If you have any further questions or would like to discuss upgrading your subscription, please contact your account manager. And if you're new to NBS and would like more information, please get in touch using the contact details at the bottom of the screen. Thanks again for joining, and goodbye for now.